Hey, how you doing?
Republican U.S. Senate candidate Eric Hovde arriving at his polling location this past week on the first day of early in-person voting, appearing with Republican National Committee Chairman Michael Whatley and sitting down with us during a stop in Waukesha. Given what you're seeing in your internals and the polls, does Trump need to win this state in order for you to win?
It would certainly be helpful, and I think he is going to win this state. Look, there's a very small percentage of Trump voters that aren't voting for me yet. We think we'll close that gap, but we have a group of voters that are voting for me that don't appear to be voting for President Trump. So we've had polls that I'm right there. So we're pretty closely aligned, but obviously if President Trump wins, it would be helpful to my campaign.
Why don't you think that group of Trump voters is sold on you yet?
Oh, it's such a small percentage. It's probably people that just are tuning in late.
Let's talk about the economy, the most important issue that Wisconsin voters have routinely said as they're currently voting and will head to the ballot box on Election Day. I'm curious your thoughts on Trump's proposal for no tax on tips or overtime. Is that a good idea?
Look, I understand no tax on tips, and you're talking small revenue numbers, and a lot of people like that. Every dollar counts, and overtime work. I understand the desire for overtime work because a lot of people are working second jobs now, and they're struggling, and they're having to take second jobs or work overtime. So I think his proposal is trying to help those that probably are economically struggling more.
And the no tax on overtime from a business guy?
Look, again, I understand the desire and trying to help those people in that position. The issue becomes you just have to make sure that work that is truly overtime work, not people classifying, I'm working 30 hours and then the next 10 is overtime. So it all gets tied up in the definition.
Let's talk about immigration, another important topic for voters. Former President Trump has proposed what he has called the largest effort of mass deportations if he's elected. First, broadly, do you support that?
Yes, we have to look, we don't know of the numbers 15, 16, 20 million people that came into this country. We don't know where they came from, what their intentions. We need to start the deportation of anybody that's been convicted of a crime or breaks a crime here, and we need to move through that process. And then we need to say the people that have come here illegally, go through the process legally. I'm a believer we need to fix our legal immigration as well. Our legal immigration system is broken. We should give people a time, whether it's 3, 4, or 5 years, a thumbs up, a thumbs down. You can come in, you can't. If you can come in, here are the requirements. I think we should move to a point system like a lot of countries have. Canada has a point system. So we're short doctors and we're short nurses right now. Well, maybe we give more points to that. So if you have that skill set, we'll expedite your process into the country.
What does this look like on the ground in terms of the deportations in your mind? I mean, is this literally local police, federal agents, National Guard going door to door looking for people?
No, I think, again, you start by prioritizing. Okay, where are these 50,000 military-age Chinese men that we know are largely engaging in two things, cybercrime and lacing pills and marijuana with fentanyl? Let's go after and get these people out. Let's go try to figure out where this 13,000 convicted murderers are. Let's go find these 15,000 plus people have been convicted of sexual assault.
On that, this would also likely cost billions, potentially tens of billions of dollars to enact. Is that something you would approve as a member of Congress?
It's going to save us an enormous amount of money, whatever it costs to get rid of them. Look, right now in New York City, what is it, like 160 hotels? This is just New York City, where they've taken whole hotels and are housing illegal immigrants. We've given them cash payments. I cannot believe we're giving cash payments and free housing to illegal immigrants when we have veterans and people in need in this country. So no, the savings will be significant given the amount that we spent.
Democrats, as you know, have spent a lot of time talking about you and your stance on abortion, and they've campaigned on that a lot ahead of the election. You said during the campaign there should be exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother, and that early on in pregnancy, a woman should have a right to choose. Where does early on end in your mind?
Well, first of all, thank you, because I did your show, geez, when was that? Back in like March or something like that? And I made my views very clear. I don't believe in a national abortion ban. I believe it should be done with a referendum. Everybody should have their right to vote. I agree with exceptions. And I agree that a woman should have a right to choose early on in their pregnancy. I was very clear on that. And yet you've seen nonstop ads now for what, 3-4 months saying, I support a national abortion ban, which I don't. They'll probably take this clip and I'll try to turn it into an ad saying I'm saying something that I'm not. But that's how she's waged her whole campaign. So I am opposed to a national abortion ban.
So if one came before Congress, whether it be 12 weeks, 15 weeks?
I believe, let me tell you why I don't believe it should be dealt with at a national level.
But that doesn't mean it's still not going to come before you as a senator.
I don't think it's, first of all, it's not going to come before the Senate. Anybody that's telling you that this is going to be addressed is lying unless you break the filibuster. And I don't support breaking the filibuster because you'd have to have control of the White House, 60 seats in the Senate, which has rarely ever happened in control of the House. So here's where it's going to be decided. I think it needs to be decided state by state. Each state can take their solution. We in the state of Wisconsin are fully capable of dealing with this in Wisconsin.
Current law is about 20 weeks in Wisconsin. Is that early on in your mind?
Yeah, look, if you look at Western Europe, they resolved this a long time ago. Germany's 12 weeks. I think France is 14 or 15 weeks. Netherlands is 18 weeks. I think at some point at the end of the first trimester, the beginning, kind of to the middle of the second trimester.
Early voting is underway. You're going to vote early in person yourself. You've been highly critical of drop boxes. I've heard you talk about in recent days. Would you like to see those banned?
My point is, drop boxes never existed in any election, except for one election, when we were in the middle of a pandemic.
They were available before.
No, you always had to go in a voting booth. There weren't drop boxes. So why would the state Supreme Court, we have this contentious election, a woman who gets to the Supreme Court, that flips Democratic, one of the first things they do is bring back drop boxes. Why? That's not constructive. Anybody can go into a polling station and vote, so why do it? So I think we need to figure out ways to build confidence in our election process so we don't have both sides saying the election was stolen.
Do you think drop boxes are less safe or less secure than throwing your ballot in a blue mail bin and sending it through the mail?
Probably, but the point is whether it is or not, the image of it looks bad.
Up next, an inside look at those ballot drop boxes.